Princess Benedikte of Denmark, the younger sister of Queen Margrethe, made one of the most difficult decisions of her life 2 years ago. When Count Konstantin gave his very first interview to a Danish magazine, no one expected to hear words that could completely change the life of his grandmother. "Yes, after I finish school, I'd like to study here," he said, while standing on the lawn of Fredensborg Palace. That simple sentence became a ray of hope for Princess Benedikte, who, 2 years ago, left Germany and her entire family behind to return to her homeland. After the passing of her husband, Prince Richard, in the year 2017, she was left alone in the massive German castle of Berleburg, where the laughter of her 3 children once echoed. Years of solitude in walls filled with memories eventually led the princess to make the decision to return to Denmark, the land of her childhood. It wasn't an easy decision. Moving meant she would see her children and grandchildren far less often, since they all remained in Germany, continuing the life she once chose for herself out of love. But the recent interview given by her grandson Konstantin might change everything, and give the princess something she may have never dared to dream of. The young Count Konstantin, son of Princess Natalie, gave his first public interview during a concert in Fredensborg. What he told the journalist from a royal Danish magazine surely warmed his grandmother's heart. The young man openly shared his plans to move to Denmark after graduating from school in Germany in the year 2029. "Yes, after I finish school, I'd like to study here, or something like that," he said, with the sincerity that only youth can bring. This news is especially touching when you understand what Princess Benedikte has gone through. Back in 1968, as a young princess, she fell in love with German Prince Richard at the wedding of Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. Their romance wasn't just a royal alliance. It was a genuine love story that led her to leave her home country of Denmark and begin a new life in Germany. The Danish government and the royal family had to negotiate for quite some time, and in the end, it was agreed that if Benedikte were ever to become a direct heir to the throne, her husband would give up his German citizenship, and the family would move to Denmark. But fate had other plans. By the time they married on the 3rd of February 1968, Benedikte's older sister, Princess Margrethe, was already married to a French diplomat and expecting her first child. The birth of Prince Frederick in May of that year released the young couple from any obligation to stay in Denmark, and they moved to Berleburg Castle, where the next 5 decades of the princess's life unfolded. It was in that castle that their 3 children were born and raised: Prince Gustav, Princess Alexandra, and Princess Nathalie. The family lived the calm life of German nobility, but Princess Benedikte never forgot her duties to Denmark. She returned regularly to carry out official responsibilities, always supporting her sister Margrethe in her royal work. Time passed, the children grew up and started families of their own. Prince Gustav spent years working in London banks before finally marrying American author Karina Axelson in the year 2022, a wedding that only happened once he was able to overcome the limitations of his grandfather's will. Princess Alexandra has been married twice and has 2 children. Princess Nathalie, a professional equestrian and Olympic participant in the 2008 Games, is also raising 2 children, including young Konstantin, who now dreams of moving to Denmark. The story of this family is a true European saga, intertwining the fates of different countries and cultures. When Benedikte and Richard were married in 1968, 2 friendship clubs were established, one in Fredensborg, Denmark, and the other in Bad Berleburg, Germany. These clubs continue to foster connections between the 2 towns to this day. The princess's children grew up in Germany, but retained their Danish citizenship and strong ties to their mother's homeland. Now the grandchildren of Princess Benedict are beginning to choose their own paths. Konstantin isn't the only one drawn to Denmark. His cousins, the children of Princess Alexandra, Count Richard and Countess Ingrid, already live in Copenhagen, sharing an apartment and studying at the prestigious Copenhagen Business School. It was their example that inspired Konstantin to consider the move. "I was inspired by my cousin, Count Richard," the teenager admitted honestly. "He's already learning Danish, and, while he says he doesn't speak it very well yet, he understands it quite a bit." At the moment, Konstantin lives in the very same Berleburg castle where his mother grew up, the place that still hosts traditional shooting festivals, attended by the whole royal family. Princess Benedikte has attended these festivals without fail for more than 50 years, ever since she got married. But now the princess only comes to the castle as a guest. Since returning to Denmark, she has moved into her childhood apartments in the palace, right next door to her sister Anne-Marie, the former Queen of Greece, who is also going through a difficult time after the loss of her husband, King Konstantin, last year. Princess Benedikte, whom her grandson describes as a very good grandmother, has always been a pillar of strength for her sisters. She supported Queen Margrethe in all of her important decisions, including the recent and much debated move to strip Prince Joachim's children of their royal titles. "My sister makes wise decisions. She thinks about the future, not just the present," Benedikte once said, demonstrating her unwavering loyalty. Now 80 years old, the princess remains an active member of the royal family. She is the patron of more than 30 Danish organizations and several international foundations. She also chairs a memorial fund in honor of her mother, Queen Ingrid, and can serve as regent whenever the king and the crown prince are abroad. In fact, just last year, she temporarily took over state duties. Despite her many achievements, Princess Benedikte remains the least well-known of the three royal sisters. She has always preferred to stay in the background, letting her older sister shine on the throne and her younger sister enjoy her title as Queen of Greece. But it is precisely this humility and devotion to her family that make her so special. Now that young Konstantin has announced his plans to move to Denmark, Princess Benedikte has a new reason to hope. All that's left is to wait for the year 2029 and wish that the young count fulfills his dream and gives his beloved grandmother the joy of seeing him often in the country he already describes as more beautiful and more welcoming than his native Germany.